RX Television on RxMuscle.com. This is Iron Debate, the show where we settle the score. I'm your host, Sadiq Faruqi. We are joined today by our esteemed panel. First, we go to IFBB Classic Physique Pro, Keone Pearson, who you just saw put on an absolute show at the New York Pro. Welcome, Keone.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Absolutely. Next, we go over to another IFBB Pro in RD Caldwell. RD, if you remember from a couple of years ago, we used to do this often on Ask Dave. We did the I Hate This Show So Much That, and RD would play along. RD would send us some of the funnier ones over email. RD, pleasure to have you aboard.
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me. It's my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. And then we finish out the guest panel with another IFBB Pro. We had him on live with last week, an episode that was much requested and well received, Greg Doucette. Greg, welcome back.
Hi, everybody. Good to be here again.
And then, of course, we go to our Cape Coral RxMuscle studios and welcome in the man with the final word on all topics, Dave Palumbo. Dave, this is a panel you've been wanting to have on for quite some time.
Yeah, I'm always debating whether I have the final word or the last word, or just the last opinion. So, but I guess being your own show, you can have the last word, right? That's always a good thing. No, you know, I think it's a good topic. I really think that this is going to be something that a lot of people have been talking about on the internet. Lee Priest and I did a funny show on people who call themselves natties out there because there's so few of them. You know, there's guys that say they're natties and they're really not. So I think that this is a very apropos show, and I know RD is actually, I want to thank him for contacting us. He's the guy who kind of gave us the inspiration for doing this show. And let's get to it.
Let's get right to it again. So this is a very much talked about topic within the bodybuilding world, natty or not. Certain competitors claiming to be natty, whereas there's a whole side of the fan base of analysts, critics who will debunk that or try to debunk that. So the first thing we're going to discuss is what is the baseline definition of the word natural or natty. Artie, we're going to go to you first one. In your opinion, or in your definition, what is natural?
If you take steroids, growth hormone, insulin, clenbuterol, prescription diuretics, if you take DHEA, if you take pro-hormones, if you take peptides, if you take SARMs, if you take pro-steroids, you are not natural, period. So Dave, I agree with you on that. If you're taking these gray area supplements, you're not natural. So just because it's over the counter doesn't necessarily mean that it's natural. So if you're taking that stuff that's on the line, borderline, if you're taking substances that are banned, you're not natural, flat out, period. So that's one of my many definitions of being natural. If you're on testosterone or hormone replacement therapy, you're not natural.
Keone.
I agree 100% what he said. 100%. That's the God honest truth on that.
Greg Doucette.
Yeah, basically he covered everything. If you take anything at all, if you fail a test in any way, or if you would have taken something that would have made you fail a test in any way, you're not natural. You might be half natural because you used to take it, now you don't, but you certainly aren't natural and you can't claim to be natural. Natural is you don't take anything. Anything that was banned, that might have been banned, you're not natural. And there's not many people out there who are truly natural.
Dave Palumbo, in your opinion, you get this question all the time. Your definition of natural or not natural?
Well, I think Artie, he got the list started, but the list also goes to, as far as I'm concerned, ephedra, amphetamines, GHB, these growth hormone peptide analogs like the MK that you could take at night orally. You know,
those are all banned still. So yeah, they're all banned as well.
I mean, you have these modulating type compounds, PPAR modulators. You have the fatless, or they call it the exercise in a pill. There's so many compounds out there that I don't even think that they could even detect or test for. So, I mean, I highly believe, you know, and I hardly believe, I should say, that many people are really truly natural out there. I don't even think some of the nutritional supplements we're taking really can be found in nature, in the sense that they're not really natural supplements either. Because think about it, GHB was a supplement that was sold in a health food store as a natural occurring supplement, and then they banned it 3 years later, and now it's a class 1 controlled substance. So were you natural when you were taking it because it wasn't classified as a controlled substance, and now you're not? That's where the gray area comes in with me. Because some things were legal and then they were made illegal when they realized they worked. Clenbuterol, when it first came out, was an asthma medication. No one knew that it actually aided performance and burned fat and built muscle and helped with recovery. So were you natural when you were taking it before it was classified, and now you're not? I don't know. To me, that's a really gray area. And the only way you really know if someone is natural is if the person themselves admits to the fact that, hey, I never took anything. But does anyone really tell the truth today? So it's very hard to say, so this guy's natural and this guy's not. And unfortunately, for most of the competitions out there that demand you to be natural, they're only testing you the day of the show. So, I mean, who's really natural anymore?
It's RD, let me go back to you, because again, you listed the whole laundry list, I guess, what would make you not natural. But when you look at, I guess, the court of public opinion, in this case, the court of the bodybuilding fans' public opinion, in that case, what do you think they look at as what would make you unnatural? Some of the most commonly used things that maybe, would push somebody over that line.
Well, Dave, I totally agree with what you said. And to answer your question, Sadiq, I believe that everyone should be taking some type of supplement anyway, just because you can't get everything from food alone anymore. I mean, the soil is totally depleted. But with that being said, I don't believe in necessarily prescription drugs or a lot of synthetic isolates. So me personally, what I rely on is a lot of herbal supplements. And we can go back to the beginning of time in the book of Genesis, in Genesis 1:29, where God said, I've given you every tree and herb to use for meat. So I believe in using things for nature. And my personal belief is that God created everything that is available to us in nature. Now, if it's chemically synthesized in a lab, that's something totally different, as opposed to using a medicinal herb.
But what if it's chemically mimicked?
Well, that's the difference. There's a difference between ascorbic acid, that's vitamin C, that's a synthetic isolate, or something that is actually extracted where you get vitamin C from, for example, guava roots. There's a difference in that. So that's what I'm talking about, the difference between. And I lean more towards things directly from nature, whole food supplements, whole food, that way. That's what I'm discussing. So that's my personal opinion on it.
Greg, A, do you agree with what already just laid out? And B, in your opinion, where's the line?
I don't agree at all. Cannabis is banned by WADA. You can't use it in Olympics. You're on cannabis. I use cannabis. It helps me sleep. Am I artificially enhanced? I don't know. It's debatable, but I know it's banned in sport. And in fact, in bodybuilding, they've added these drug-tested events to turn pro. They took out cannabis. They just decided arbitrarily, we're not going to test for this. I'm like, how can you just not test for that? It's part of the banned substances for WADA, which is the Olympics. And then bodybuilding decides, no, you can use it if you want. But I mean, they're just looking at having more competitors. Competitors have been asking me all the time, can I smoke weed? Am I going to fail a test? I'm like, yeah, you're going to fail. But I mean, so that's coming, it's a plant. You just smoke it. But just because it's from the earth doesn't mean you should use it, type thing.
I agree with that. And that's where I draw the line. I don't believe in taking mind-altering substances because, again, me personally, I'm coming from a biblical perspective and biblical worldview. So I would say God gave us all these trees, plants, and herbs, but he said, do not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So through deeper revelation, that means to me, just because it's from the earth or natural doesn't mean I could use it if it's a mind-altering. So me personally, I've never even tasted alcohol. I've never smoked anything because as soon as you smoke something, it becomes carcinogenic. So I don't agree with that at all. Just because
I would go as far as to say we could have an entirely separate episode just on cannabis and weed and whether or not where that falls on the spectrum. But Keone, I want to go to you because I think we are due to make a revelation here now. Up until the New York Pro, so we're talking about just a few weeks ago, you competed completely natural. talk to us about the biggest adjustment, the biggest transformation, the biggest change that you brought about going to the New York Pro, competing as not natural.
After the Arnold placing and saw my conditioning and my size against, like Steve Lars, George Peterson, all that opened my eyes. It's like, this is a whole nother level. I already knew that being as an IFBB pro is a whole nother level. But I was like, to redeem myself and show Steve what I'm really capable of doing, I had to do what I had to do. Had to cross over. And, we got a totally different outcome, obviously. And so here we are now.
So, I mean, again, you don't have to go fully into detail, but what can you reveal or what you feel comfortable revealing as far as the changes that you brought about prepping for the New York Pro?
As far as like in my body?
Yes. Or just in terms of what you were taking?
Well, this is the bare minimum of anything you can think of. But as far as definitely my conditioning, I noticed a lot in my conditioning. A lot. I feel like you can, just me, actually experiencing, you can only get so grainy and hard naturally.
I disagree.
Well, wait, we're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to yeah.
I've seen people in their prime.
Yeah.
But me, I'm not in my prime. I don't have mature muscle yet. So for me, it's gonna be hard to get that condition like, Breon and them. So. And,
let me just add to what you're explaining. On the episode of Live With that you were on a couple of weeks ago, you did reveal to Dave that your long-term aspiration may include going to the 212. So talk to us about the function of, I guess, improving for classic physique and how much your decision to eventually go 212 played into that decision-making.
How could I answer the question? Well, after this show, man, like I said, I'm going to just take a completely whole year off and just grow. We're just going to grow. We're going to do it the right way. Take a year off and just put on quality tissue. Yeah.
Let me ask you this. At what point did you personally or your coach decide, all right, Keone Pearson, I have hit my genetic potential?
Ask me that one more time.
Sorry?
Ask me that one more time.
No. So at what point did you or your coach realize, all right, you know what? I have maxed out my genetic potential as far as what I can do competing naturally?
It was definitely after the Arnold Classic. And especially we was trying to pick up the show. I was more so trying to lean over. I was thinking I was going to compete later on in the year and just take a break. But he said New York Pro, and I knew how prestige that show is. So, I just wanted to completely change. I just wanted to shock the world and show people what I'm capable of doing. I just didn't want to be that guy with a good shape with no type of conditioning. You know what I'm saying? And so that's why I thought, we should do what we had to do. So I felt like I hit all I could, naturally. I got lean as I could naturally. Obviously it wasn't good enough, so.
Dave Palumbo, I want to loop back to you as far as what the line was. RD, we're gonna get.
I'd like to hear RD Caldwell's opinion on this because
Okay,
RD had a strong opinion about that.
You have a disagreement with what Keone mentioned.
Yeah. First of all, Keone, thank you, my brother, for your honesty. I appreciate that because you posted a transformation and I was getting hundreds of messages. People were like, is he natural or not? I'm like, I don't know. I stay out of it. Unless somebody says something, I don't know. But my personal belief is conditioning is earned. You have to work for it. You have to freaking suffer. You got to starve. You got to do cardio. You have to lift heavy weights. Conditioning is earned. So my opinion is maybe you weren't suffering enough. So I can achieve the same level of conditioning as anybody, but I don't have a limited mindset on my natural status. And every year I've gotten better. So my belief is future forward thinking. Over the long term, I will develop more muscle maturity. If I can work harder, then I can get that. I can achieve that level. So nothing's off limits for me. So that's the mindset that I have. I do 3 hours of cardio right now because I got to work for that conditioning. If I want shredded glutes, I got to diet it off and work it off. I got to earn it. That's why I'm sweating right now because it's 110 degrees in my gym. There's no air. I train here and I live in this gym because it's hot. So I'm sweating. I'm burning fat right now.
Keone, you want to respond to that?
That's a legit answer. I could agree. But, I'm just one of those guys, whatever my coach tells me to do it, I'm going to do it. So this is all I know. This is all I know.
I don't have a coach.
You said what now?
God's your coach, RD. I say God is your coach.
God is my coach. You're right, Dave. I'm old school. I've been doing this for 22 years.
But Keone, let's just respond to what RD just mentioned as far as the work, as far as the diet, the suffering, the conditioning, everything you have to do, obviously. I mean, these are things that, I mean, what changed? I mean, that had to be the same protocol as far as that was concerned, natural to unnatural, correct? For you?
Yeah, and like I told people, what changed the most between Arnold and New York, believe it or not, Arnold, I didn't do no cardio for the whole prep. I prepped for.
There's your answer right there, right?
There it is.
I did.
You got to work for it, baby.
I did no cardio, but best believe I was starving. I was eating. I was like 0 carbs real early. That's pretty much your answer. My intense workouts was my cardio, drinking 2 to 3 gallons a day. So that's the output that I got. And then once I actually incorporated cardio, that shit was tough, and I started doing it. I didn't realize how out of shape I was, and did cardio, and that changed the game for me tremendously in my food.
Greg, let me bring you back in because I want to clarify something. In your episode of Live, but then in your general point of view, in your opinion, can an IFBB pro, be it in classic physique, be it in men's physique, be it 212 or open class, can anyone compete at that level naturally, in your opinion?
Yeah, you can compete at that level. You just can't win, you know? And what I find is these young guys, like you said, he doesn't know if he never hit his genetic limit. He's too young to know. He probably could have kept going. But really, I agree. He wasn't dieting enough. He wasn't suffering enough. He just said, I drink 2 liters of water or 2 gallons of water. That's kind of like my cardio. It's like, he's still not suffering that much. He still can get better. He can still get leaner. The biggest difference steroids make is not conditioning, it's size. Everyone can get shredded. When I was natural and competing at 170 pounds or whatever, I was shredded. I would beat half the bodybuilders who I've won overalls against guys on juice all the time. But I wasn't as big. And when I took steroids, it got much bigger. That's the big difference. So you can get shredded. Just do the 3 hours of cardio, like he's saying, you know, that'll do it. So my opinion is he just needs to suffer more. Even in his last show, which he won, he could have been leaner. He still hasn't really found out, you know, what suffering is and what starving is. You know, it's these young guys, they don't know. And when you get older and you've done a million shows, you find out, like, how much can you really suffer to get stupid shredded? You know, he's just got amazing genetics. He's going to keep working. He's going to kill. He's going to dominate.
Well, Keone, let me go back to you real quick because you mentioned George Peterson specifically, and it's a very interesting.
Sid, let me throw 2 cents in here for a second because I think this is a good point. You know, I worked my ass off too when I was competing. I took anabolic steroids, and I was probably one of the bigger guys out there. But I'm going to say this: if I ever look like Keone Pearson, and I look in the mirror and I saw that front double bicep, even before he was maybe completely peaked out, I would think I look great too, because he does. He's so good that it bamboozles you. You know, if you're a coach and you get those pictures of that front double bicep in your inbox, you know, it's like, what do you want to really do for this? I mean, we're splitting hairs. We're talking about, you know, going from, you know, placing top 3 at shows to winning the Olympia, you know. So I understand why sometimes it's harder to push a competitor who looks that good to get that much better. But I agree with you guys. With hard work, anyone can get in shape. But obviously the anabolics are going to take him to the next level. And I think he has that kind of a physique that can go to that level where he could win an Olympia. So I understand the decision, Keone, 100%.
So Keone, let me just go back to what you said and reflecting what Dave just said and what Greg mentioned as far as the size angle that steroids brings about. You mentioned George Peterson specifically. Now, the obvious dynamic between you and George, from many perspectives, looks like a 212 bodybuilder in a classic physique frame, whereas you are that classic mainstream look that many think classic physique should be. When you look at the size of George Peterson, does that get into your mind a little bit? Like, you know what? I love my shape, but damn, it must be nice to be that big.
I'm not more so looking at his size. It's more so his condition and his density. It's
density,
I think it's unreal. That's why I brought it up. You know, like doing the Arnold Classic. You know, standing next to those guys, I wasn't nowhere near conditioning and had that muscle density like these guys. You know, and so that's pretty much what I was pointing at.
RD, let me go back to you because, again, you have stood on a platform of being natural, and it is something that while many are going to admire, there are going to be many doubters behind that. Talk to me about sort of the mindset that you carry for having a natural, physique going forward, and sort of the hate, sort of the doubt that you receive from so many corners of the bodybuilding fan base.
Well, first of all, let me address Greg real quick. I won a pro show naturally, so it can be done, qualify for the Olympia, place top 10 at the Arnold. But let me preface my answer by saying my uncle, my mother's brother, used steroids when they became illegal. He got off cold turkey, experienced severe depression, and ended up committing suicide. So that his death would not be in vain, I made a vow to God, to myself, and to my family to not only never use steroids, but never use any drugs, period. So that's why I've never tasted alcohol, never smoked. So that's the foundation of my natural status and just my upbringing and how I was raised. So in that, I've won six overalls in the NPC as a middleweight naturally, overalls. Turned pro at the Universe. And then after I turned pro, I've always gotten feedback from the judges, win, lose, or draw. So I go up to Gary Udit. I just won the Universe. I'm like, where do I go? Where do I compete? I can't compete in open. I can't be competitive in the 212. So he told me, he said, you're a great poser. Guest pose and market yourself as a natural IFBB pro. Before that, if somebody asked me, I would tell them like, yeah, I'm natural, but it wasn't a big deal because I just love bodybuilding. So my father always told me, don't worry about what anybody else does, just focus on yourself. So if somebody chooses to use whatever, that's their choice. It doesn't matter. But now I found, based on the hundreds of messages I get, I believe that people see me as an ambassador of natural bodybuilding, and they look to me as, hey, I can do it too because RD, you made it. Every time I talk to somebody that's natural in the NPC or somebody that's scared of competing in the NPC, they're like, well, I did it, so you can do it too. Now, it takes time and a lot of hard work. It's not going to happen overnight, but it's a lot of consistency. I mean, I've been playing sports my whole life, so I love it. I love bodybuilding.
Keone, let me go back to you because up until the New York Pro, you were natural, and there was all sorts of doubt as to your natural status. I'm sure you've gotten plenty of questions, plenty of messages. You felt it from all corners of bodybuilding as far as whether or not Keone Pearson could look that good and actually be natural. To that, you say what?
Honestly, when I got all those messages, and I did get a lot of hate too after the show. People said I knew he wasn't natty. I just wasn't responding back to none of that stuff. I just didn't confirm it. I didn't, say it. I just let people say what they say. But I figured it was coming because the change that happened so much in 8 weeks.
Greg, let me go to you because you have amassed such a following because so many people appreciate, just like, Dave, your honesty. You're very open. You're a completely open book. And that's why people wanted you to go on with Dave because you guys are just very open about everything that you do, that you take, so on and so forth. Talk to us about just as far as the respect that you develop being so open about every protocol, about everything that you take and that you recommend to your clients.
Well, I can go back to when I was, in fact, natural, and I would say, I'm natural, and everyone was like, no, you're not, and I'm like, yes, I am, and I had almost no respect because people were like, they wanted to hear I was natural because they hated the fact that I could, for example, beat somebody natural when they were enhanced. So once I actually came out and I'm like, okay, I'm now on steroids, and I put on 20 pounds of muscle, I'm like, yeah, I'm on steroids. All of a sudden, people start respecting me because I'm on steroids. I'm like, why are you hating if I'm natural? And now that I'm not, I'm cool because I'm on your level. And it's like, people just need to feel like there's a reason why you're good. And if you're natural, they hate it. They just hate it. And it's really embarrassing. But I mean, you look at any IFBB Pro open men's competitor, take away the steroids, they're still going to beat me. They're still freaks, and they can still grow crazy amount of muscle. So when somebody says this guy natural, there's no way, I'm like, why can't they be? How big would Ronnie Coleman be with no drugs? He'd still be a freak. So, it's embarrassing. It's sad, but like, I have to say, I get more respect being on steroids than I did when I was natural and saying I'm natural.
Dave, if you want to address that culture of doubt and perhaps jealousy when it comes to the obsession of finding out whether somebody's natty or not believing somebody if they claim to be natty.
You know, it all goes back. You could even break it down to a much more primal level. I mean, some people just naturally produce more testosterone than other people. Is that an unfair playing field? Should we all be like testosterone tested to see if our levels are the same? Because if RD's levels are just naturally higher than mine are, then he has an advantage over me, right? So why shouldn't I be titrated up to a higher testosterone level by the doctor so that we all have the same exact testosterone level? That would be the only way to really level the playing field. So really, I think RD said it best. It's all defined by who you are and where you draw the line. If RD wants to be natural and never use drugs, then that's his opinion. If Breon has decided, you know what, I want to take it to the next level and use them, then that's his level. If the next guy says, like Boston Lloyd, I want to take every steroid I can get my hands on at all times, then that's his level. So I think everyone creates their own limits. And luckily for us, the bodybuilding industry or the bodybuilding organization that we compete in really doesn't put limits on that. And that's one of the things they don't restrict. So it's a personal decision based on, what your belief system is and where you want to go or not go. So for people out there to like throw stones, I think it's stupid because no one's breaking any rules. It's not like the NFL or Major League Baseball or even MMA anymore where people are drug tested. No one's breaking any laws. No one's breaking any rules of the organization, I should say, taking what they're taking. So people should just drop it. I mean, I think the most common debate we hear online is Mike O'Hearn natural?
Yeah, that was where I was going to go next.
I don't know. Is he? What does the panel think? I don't know if he is or not.
Before we go there, Artie, you wanted to respond to Dave before we go around the horn as celebrities that are.
Yeah, real quick. It's interesting that people have a limited mindset towards bodybuilding because I don't believe that they've ever seen anybody truly reach their true, quote unquote, natural potential. Because if I say my fraternity brother, Shaquille O'Neal, is 7'1", he's huge, but nobody says, oh, his parents gave him growth hormones so he could get that tall. Or Michael Jordan is 6'6". They're just genetically tall. So why can't people just genetically be perfect mesomorphs and muscular? I mean, I was 150 pounds, 5'4" in the 6th grade. I was muscular before I even started lifting weights. So the people that know me, they know I'm natural because I've been doing it forever. So they know, they're like, RD, you're just a little bit bigger. You're the same guy. But I mean, you can go back and look at pictures.
And I'm glad you guys are bringing this up because look, there is a culture of doubt and jealousy, right? Obviously, we have it in other sports as well. Baseball, somebody hits 50 home runs, well, they must be on the juice. Something must be wrong with them or something. They must be taking something. In bodybuilding, there's a whole culture that there are YouTube channels literally dedicated to exposing whether somebody is or not natural. Mm-hmm. And one of the biggest names, perhaps the biggest lightning rod in bodybuilding / celebrity world is Mike O'Hearn. There seems to be this long trail of personalities and videos trying to detect whether or not Mike O'Hearn is natural. Greg Doucette, is Mike O'Hearn natural in your opinion?
Of course he's not natural. Everyone knows he's not natural. He gets better with age. I mean, if he was 30 years old and had a certain look, I'd be like, well, maybe he's just a freak. But when you're like getting on 50, you don't look better at 50 than at 30. There's certain limits to the body. I know I hit my genetic limit around 30-ish and I wasn't getting any better. I started training at 10. And I know some people have better genetics than I do and they can just get further. But I'm 43. There's no way without steroids I would look as good as I was 30. I'm not going to be better at 48 than I am at 43. So he's not natural. Everyone knows he's not natural, but he can't admit it. I said it in the last show. It's like if I snort cocaine every weekend, I'm not going to admit it. It's breaking the law. So he's not going to come out and be like, oh, yeah, man, I take steroids every day. No, he's not. It's just stupid. He can't admit it. And then once the lie goes so long, you have to stick with it. That's what he's doing.
Keone.
In my opinion, I thought he was at first. I just thought long-term, training. I feel like he could achieve. But, I mean, that's my opinion. I mean, you don't have to worry about anything. That's what I think.
He's young. He's young.
Artie.
No comment. I don't care. Because I don't care I don't care if somebody else is natural or not. Like I told you, my father just told me you have to work twice as hard, and that's what I do. Going back to people's disbelief, people don't want to suffer. I feel like I'm going to throw up after every set just because every set is to failure. People don't want to work hard. They want the participation trophy just for showing up. So I train hard, I diet, I focus on myself. Like I said earlier, I don't care what anybody else does or takes, because that would take away from me focusing on me. I got a show to win. I'm getting ready for the Ben Weider Natural Pro Show. I don't care what anybody else is doing.
Well, that would be cool for you to do. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I don't care. He can take or not take what I don't spend time on the internet looking at, ooh, they're natural, oh, they're not. Who cares? Do what you want to do.
I agree with your answer, so I'm gonna go with your answer.
That was a good answer. I have to admit it.
Who cares? That's the problem. People don't want to focus on themselves. People are not focusing. Dave Palumbo, you brought this up about people being in the gym on their phones. When I train, that's my hour for me to work out. That's for me to improve myself. I am completely focused. One of the gyms, I'm at the Dirty Gym now. This is where I work out at because I can focus. I train at Everybody Fitness as well because I can focus. So just focus on, you need to have laser tunnel vision focus. Stop worrying about everybody else. That's the problem with society now. Everybody's worried about looking on Instagram. What are they doing? They're living their life to the fullest, and you're sitting on the couch watching somebody else.
Dave, final word on the Mike O'Hearn / celebrity angle.
You know, I know Mike a long time. I don't believe that Mike really does full out, blown out steroid cycles. I think if he's on anything, it's probably hormone replacement levels. He's pretty much the same size all the time. I think he probably started out natural and at some point probably went to some hormone replacement. And I don't think he's on excessively high levels. His face always looks good. The guy doesn't look like he's jacked out of his mind on a ton of gear. And I think, his angle now is I'm not competing. I'm a celebrity. I have to have a certain look. That's how I make my money, doing appearances and endorsing products. And I think that's really where he's at. I think probably if someone said take a drug test, he'd probably pass the drug test, because I think that he's probably on very small amounts of testosterone replacement. But
small amounts still fail you.
What?
Small amounts will still fail you. He's on growth hormone and HRT, 100% for sure.
He might
just like The Rock, same thing.
Yeah.
Guys, we're going to wrap this up with one question. I'm going to go around the horn because we get this question every week practically on our show, Ask Dave. And that is, okay, it's one thing for somebody to be a natural IFBB pro. It's another thing for an IFBB pro to maybe win a show here and there competing completely naturally. Be it RD Caldwell, be it men's physique, be it classic physique, be it 212, be it open class. In your opinion, could there be a, quote, high-level IFBB pro that competes completely naturally? RD, we'll start with you.
What you mean? I'm that guy. You talking to me? I'm right here. I'm the guy. I did it. I'm doing it.
Could you be top 6 at the Olympia open class? Let's go to that angle.
Why not? I'm getting better every year. I feel great. I'm getting better and better. Every year, what I get is more muscle maturity. It's another year of lifting heavy weights, free weights, dumbbells, barbells, not machines. I am getting a new level of density, muscle maturity, separation, striations every single year. I'm getting better and better. I'm like fine wine. So why not me? Because I'm experimenting on myself to see when will I truly reach my genetic potential naturally, because I'll never take anything. So let's see how far I can go. Why can't I do it when I'm 45?
Have you ever, ARD, have you ever had your testosterone levels checked to see what it is?
I never have, but I'm willing to. If somebody wants to blood test me,
yeah,
they can.
I'd like to see what they are.
Just go to the doctor, get some blood work. They'll do it.
Okay, I'll do that.
Health check. Just be curious just to see if you're like on that high limit or just normal and you're just a freak with normal tests, or some people are, high. It'd be just for fun to know.
Yeah. Okay.
He might have no myostatin, That's what I think. I think Keone Pearson has no myostatin.
Keone, let me shift to you. In your opinion, somebody be a top 6 Olympian, but we're taking it to that high extreme angle, top 6 open class. Could somebody be a top 6 Olympian completely natural?
Well, let's look.
Maybe
let's
not
look
in
at my
bodybuilding, but classic physique or men's physique, I truly think so. They have good genetics and a good work ethic and dieting. I felt like, honestly, without me crossing over, I felt like I could have keep going. Honestly, realistically, I know I could, but I just didn't because I just wanted to, prove a statement really quick and just to show people, like I said, what I'm capable of doing. But I honestly think so you could.
So let me ask you, just follow up on that. If Keone Pearson goes completely natural in 2019, 2020, 2021, at some point, is Keone Pearson knocking off Breon Ansley, Chris Bumstead naturally?
Is that for me?
No, Keone.
Oh, that was for me? Oh,
yeah.
So you're asking me if I was natural all those years?
If you were natural, if you had that progression, completely natural this year, next year, maybe even 2 years down the road, in your opinion, could you win the Classic Physique Olympia, defeating Breon Ansley, the likes of Chris Bumstead, Arash Barr, Jordan Peterson? Could you do that completely naturally, in your opinion?
Well, I don't like to think that far ahead, so I like to take little steps at a time. But it can be done.
I think he could do it. I do. I think his physique would have been capable of doing it had he stuck to it. But like I said, I respect exactly what he's doing now because I think he's going to be a superstar in the future.
Greg Doucette.
In the open class, 0 chance, not even close to a chance. In the 212 class, 0 chance, not even a chance. Classic physique, you could probably potentially be a top 5 Olympian. The guys with the best genetics, like Keone, Chris Bumstead, I think these guys could be top 5 while natural, given the proper amount of years of training and the hard dieting and all the hard work. Men's physique, I think if you're born with that crazy, silly, stupid, small waist, then you got a good chance at winning, even natural. But not in an open class. That's just redonkulous. There's no way. That's just silly. No. 0. Never.
Dave, final word.
I agree with Greg. In the open class, no way. You're not winning the Olympia natural. Probably, like I said, Ronnie Coleman was probably the greatest genetic freak of all time natural. He turned pro natural. He was competing. I mean, if you saw the pictures from the early 90s, before he took drugs, I mean, his arms were like 21 inches. He had huge quads. His back wasn't as big. That's probably the only thing that was really different. I think once he went on gear, his back just got huge. And he had good delts. The guy was dangerous. I mean, he really didn't even know what he was doing. So I think he probably could have been a successful natural competing pro, but I don't think he would have ever won the Olympia. No way.
That is going to do for this episode of Iron Debate. Special thanks to our esteemed panel, Greg Doucette, Keone Pearson, RD Caldwell, Dave Palumbo on the final word, and of course, our producer, Tyler Shore, doing an excellent job as always. For our whole team here at RxMuscle, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. We'll see you next time.